This is me, February 23rd, 2014. 8 years old and tracking the final rankings at Sochi. Canada in first, Sweden in second, Finland in third. That was the podium the last time NHL players are allowed at the Winter Games. Back then, I thought that's just how it worked. The best players in the world coming together every 4 years for a chance to make hockey history. But I was wrong. 12 years, 2 missed Olympic tournaments, 4,370 days of what-ifs. 12 years? Is Sidney Crosby still playing? He's so good. He's still the captain, bud. But tournaments you didn't get into, it's a different world now. Teams you wouldn't expect are now legitimate gold medal threats. But Canada's still gonna win, right? We're the best hockey country in the world. Time will tell, but it's more difficult now. The US, Finland, Sweden, they've all caught up. Even Czechia and Switzerland have rosters that can take anyone down. And kid, don't sleep on the underdogs. Remember how untouchable we felt? Latvia and Denmark, 2 teams that weren't even on your radar, just stunned the world and beat Canada. I still believe this is our sport. I hope so, bud. 4,370 days of waiting, 12 years of what-ifs, and finally, the best on best return to the ice. This is your 2026 Olympic preview. Gold medal, let's go! Welcome back to On the Fly. We're previewing the predicting, recapping World Junior Championships, our Men's World Championships, the Women's World Championship, the U18 Men's World Championship. Expect the unexpected. Absolute abomination of the Canadian Junior National Team. I have a couple extra words I want to use in that one. And it's Freebird. Freebird. Of course, the Olympics are just around the corner. I'm going to coin it the rivalry day. World Junior history! Your home for international hockey. This is On the Fly. Hello everyone, welcome back to On the Fly. Today we're previewing the 2026 Men's Olympic Hockey event happening in Milano and Cortina, Italy. So before we get too far into it today, a quick reminder that we have uploaded all 12 of our individual team previews. You can find those in the link in the description below. Those videos go over the individual rosters, players to watch for, their schedules, a little bit of their history and expectations. So be sure to go check those videos out. And as well, we'll be coming out with our full prediction video in tomorrow's video. So be sure to come back for that one. We'll be breaking down every single game at this year's tournament. Today's video is going to be a little bit more of that high level, going over the groups, what to expect, a little bit of the history of this tournament, and then the game by game, day by day games to kind of watch for, and kind of how the tournament overall works. Tomorrow's video is going to be just kind of going over the nitty gritty, picking every single game, showing how the tournament's going to end up working, assuming everything goes to plan. We have been getting closer and closer to a perfect bracket. This just might be the year for it, so definitely keep an eye on it for that purpose. But we will be uploading that video tomorrow. All of our team previews are already out, so be sure to check out those as well. We'll hop into it today, talking a little bit about the history of this tournament. And obviously the Olympics, a historic tournament, and one that in recent years has fallen a little bit by the wayside, at least for North American fans, with the exclusion of NHL players. You think back to the last 2 tournaments, 2022, we saw the rise of the Finns taking home the gold medal. Russia came second that year. Slovakia had a really impressive tournament, coming 3rd place with the heroics of Juraj Slafkovsky, and the Swedes ended up in 4th spot at that year's tournament. 2018, once again, another year without the NHL players. We saw the Russians take that tournament, winning the gold medal. Germany came second, and Canada won the bronze at that year's tournament. And then we shift to the years with NHL players. And this is going to be another year of kind of a similar trend we'll likely see. Of course, in the 2014 tournament, you saw it off the top. Canada in first, Sweden in second, and Finland taking home the bronze medal at that year's tournament. 2010, Canada in first, US in second, and Finland taking home the bronze, with the Slovaks having a bit of an impressive tournament at that year's tournament, just falling a little bit short in that bronze medal game. But you look at this year's tournament, expectations rolling in there is a fairly set expectation of what's to come. You're looking for Canada, you're looking for the USA. Those 2 teams are going to be in a dogfight for the number 1 spot. The Swedes are a sneaky team for 3rd this year. They played exceptionally well at the 4 Nations tournament. They had arguably one of the worst tournaments they could have had. They lost to Canada in overtime. They lost to the Finns in overtime. And they ended up beating the US in that tournament, the eventual silver medalist, and they took the eventual gold medalists to, of course, overtime. And so the Swedes this year, a bit of a sleeper team, one to definitely keep an eye on. Then you kind of shift to the fourth spot team, likely going to be the Finns this year as far as that power rankings go. Then you see kind of a fifth, sixth switcheroo, depending on which way you want to look at it, between the Czechs and the Swiss, two teams relatively close in skill, but I give the slight edge to the Czechs. Then you kind of see the other two with Germany and Slovakia. Personally give the edge to Germany, but still a very good argument to be made either way. Then you go even further down with Latvia and Denmark. Once again, another one where you can flip it back and forth. I'm going to give the slight edge to Denmark, but I do think it could go either way. France is a pretty solidified 11th place team. And of course, the Danes, or of course, Italy rather, will be that last place team. Not really expected to do all that much at this year's tournament. But we'll shift now into the groups. And so we look at these groups, and we'll start here in the death group with Group A. Canada, Czechia, Switzerland, and France. Going to be a tough group to get out of. You have three teams who've been on the rise, especially at the men's worlds, where we've seen the Czechs, of course, take home the gold medal at the 2024 World Championship, and the Swiss, who are back-to-back silver medalists. Don't count out either of these teams, especially against the Canada team that is kind of coming in a little bit confident after a big win at Four Nations. They could be on upset watch early at this tournament. France, not really expected to do all that much. It's their first appearance up at the big stage in quite a while. And so we'll see if they're going to be able to kind of build some momentum moving forward into this tournament. Group B kind of presents another one of those scenarios where you have a dogfight for that top spot between Finland and Sweden, one of the best rivalries in all of sports. And then you have in third place, you're gonna see that Slovak team. Italy, a pretty decisive fourth place. They're not expected to do all that much at this year's tournament. Although, once again, crazier things can happen at these tournaments. And it all comes down to how all these teams play. Because you take a sleeper against any of these guys, eventually it's going to end up in the back of your net. Something to watch for in Group B. Sweden and Finland, see which team can end up taking that top spot. Then over to Group C, and it's a little bit more of that interesting type group. The U.S., the clear-cut favorites, expected to kind of take the group and take it by quite a margin. A reminder that at this tournament in particular, it is extremely, extremely important to not only win your games, but win your games by a decisive margin, because as you look forward in the tournament, your goal differential becomes a crucial part to how you seed at this tournament, and eventually down the line, when you look at semifinals, where our teams are reseeded after the quarters, you want to get an easier seed, because in the case for the U.S. team, they're trying to avoid having to play either Canada or Sweden. Something to definitely keep an eye on for the U.S., see if they can find those big margin games, especially with not having that team that kind of is the beating bag in the group like Italy is and like France is for the other two groups. The U.S. can find their game early, find their offense. They will be just fine going forward in this tournament, but definitely something to keep an eye on there. Then the conversation turns to the second spot in Group C. Likely you're going to see the Germans take that spot, although it is a bit of an interesting battle between the Danes, between Latvia, who could very well jump into that spot. You get a hot goaltender at the right time. All of a sudden, this tournament could be flipped on its head pretty quickly, especially with how important ranking higher in these groups are for a team like Germany, for a team like Denmark, for a team like Latvia. Very important to finish higher in the group. But we'll now switch over to the schedule, and we'll start here on February the 11th at 10:40 a.m. Eastern Time between Finland and Slovakia. The other game of the day between Sweden and Italy at 3:10 p.m. Your game of the day for this one is between Finland and Slovakia. This game is going to be a more or less sort of that defensive styled battle that we've become so accustomed to at these tournaments. You'll look for this one to be a relatively tight game through and through. I'm not sure how much of a fight that Slovak team's going to be able to put up against the tough Finn team. But what we've seen at the World Championships in particular, you can look at the other tournaments as well that they've played in, the Slovaks are always a tough out for a team like the Finns. Should be an interesting game and definitely one to watch. Your game of the day at 10:40 a.m. Eastern Time on February the 11th, Finland versus Slovakia. Sweden, Italy, don't expect to be there terribly close. expect a Sweden domination game and likely a blowout. But that'll move us over to February the 12th. We'll start at 6:10 a.m. Eastern between Switzerland and France. Second game of the day at 10:40 a.m. between Canada and Czechia. Latvia and the US will play at 3:10 p.m. and Germany and Denmark at 3:10 p.m. as well. Two games of the day here. Your first one between Canada and Czechia. This one is sort of that opening firework type game that we've been waiting for at this tournament. For Canada, it's their first real test at this tournament. You think to their games at Four Nations, they had pretty easy go at it. They kind of made games probably more interesting than they should have. They ended up losing to the US in that prelim round. They almost lost to the Swedes. They almost blew it against the Finns. And for a team like the Czechs, who are kind of just a camp-out type team where they're going to wait for you to make mistakes, this could become a very tough game for a Canadian squad rolling into their first games of the tournament. For the Czechs, this one has upset potential written all over it. Your game to watch, 10:40 a.m. between Canada and Czechia. And the other game between Germany and Denmark at 3:10 p.m. This one is going to be one to definitely watch for. Big ramifications in Group C. We'll see whether or not they're going to be able to pull off an upset for the Danes. If the Danes can pull off the upset, all of a sudden Group C gets a lot more interesting, especially when you look across with Latvia also making a push and Germany trying to get that second spot. Lots to play for these teams. Germany, Denmark, your other game of the day at 3:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Then we'll shift over to February the 13th, where we'll see Sweden taking on Finland at 6:10 a.m. Eastern, Slovakia and Italy at 6:10 as well, France and Czechia at 10:40, and then Canada and Switzerland at 3:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Two games of the day here as well, Sweden and Finland, the opener. Going to be a good game, one of the best rivalries in all the sports. You also take into the fact that it will likely determine who ends up getting the first and second seed over in Group B. Lots of ramifications for that. Reminder that all the top 4 teams at the tournament coming out of the prelims will get an automatic bye to the quarterfinals, get to avoid having to go through the qualification round. Although if you end up as the second seed, you either end up getting a bye or you will likely end up playing either France or Italy, so it's more or less shapes out to be a bye. But obviously you want to end up higher. The higher you can get, the better it is in the long run. And so for the Finns, they're going to really try and pull off the upset in this game. I'd say this game is about as tight as you're going to see at this tournament. It's going to be a good game. It always is between these two teams. And overtime seems ever more likely as these tournaments progress and we see just how tight these two teams really are. Your other game of the day between Canada and Switzerland, you look at this game, and similar to their game against the Czechs for Canada, it's going to be a tight game. And you look at this Swiss team, another team that's just sort of sitting in the weeds, waiting out to surprise a team like Canada. Definitely one to watch over in Group A. Canada, Switzerland, your other game of the day, as well as Sweden and Finland. Then we shift to February the 14th. We start here with Sweden versus Slovakia at 6:10 a.m. Eastern. Germany, Latvia at 6:10 as well. Finland and Italy at 10:40. And then the USA taking on Denmark at 3:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Your game of the day here is Germany and Latvia coming up at 6:10 a.m. You look at these two teams, once again, you kind of look to that Group C as a bit of a mismatch fight for that second spot in the group. If Latvia can pull off the upset against Germany, all of a sudden this tournament becomes wide open once again. We'll see whether or not they're going to be able to pull off that upset, because they can. All of a sudden, Latvia becomes that front runner for taking that second spot in the group. A much easier path to the quarterfinals. And for a team like Latvia, that's more or less their expectation for this tournament. An easier path in is normally a good sign for them. We'll see if they can pull off the upset on the 14th. We'll shift over now to February the 15th. We'll start here at 6:10 a.m. between Switzerland and Czechia. Canada, France at 10:40 a.m., Denmark, Latvia at 1:10, and then the USA and Germany at 3:10 p.m. as well. And so we look at these games, a few ones to take note of. The first one, and arguably one of the most important games of the tournament, between Switzerland and Czechia. You look at this game and the ramifications are huge. For Czechia, for the Swiss, they're looking to try and get into that second spot in Group A, get to avoid a potential matchup between Canada or the US, most likely down the line when you get to the quarterfinal rounds. And so for these teams, you look for them to kind of come out flying. And the Czechs and the Swiss, I'd say, are two teams that are very even at this tournament, more so than people might be giving them credit for. It's going to be an exciting game. It's always proven to be a good one. You can even think back to the 2024 World Championships, where, of course, that was the gold medal game. We'll see if there's any bad blood still left out there to try and be found. Denmark and Latvia as the other important game of this day. You look at it, especially in that Group C. We'll see whether or not if Denmark or Latvia can kind of win that game, get themselves higher in the group. Obviously important points to try and salvage. Something to definitely keep an eye on there between Denmark and Latvia. But that would conclude the preliminary round. We then move on to the qualification round. A reminder how that works is the top 4 teams get automatic buys to the quarterfinals. And in the qualifying round is 5th place versus the 12th place seeded team. 6th place 11, 7th place 10, and 8 and 9 will play each other in the qualifying round. That will be on February the 17th. Your game times for that for the first qualifying round is 6:10 a.m. Second is at 6:10 a.m. as well. 10:40 a.m. is the third qualification game, and then at 3:10 p.m. Eastern time is the last qualification game. There's 4 of them, and then from there, it's a guaranteed seed into the quarterfinals. Remind how the quarterfinals work is that the first place seed plays the winner of the 8 versus 9 qualification round game. Second place 7 and 10. Third plays the winner of 6 and 11. And then fourth place plays the winner of 5 and 12. Their quarterfinal time slots on February the 18th are at 6:10 a.m., 10:40 a.m., 12:10 p.m., and then 3:10 p.m. Eastern time. So lots to play for, of course, into the quarterfinals. As far as what you're expecting here to see in the quarterfinals, a pretty safe bet to assume is that you'll see the big 6 as far as the kind of who you're looking for at this tournament, which is going to be Canada, the USA, Finland, Sweden, Czechia, and Switzerland. You can make a very good case for whoever comes out on top over in Group C, which will likely be Germany. And then from there, it's a little bit more of a mixed bag. You can likely see the Slovaks as well. There's a few other teams in there that very well could pull off an upset. You're looking at Latvia, you're looking at Denmark to kind of squeeze their way into the quarters. And then they move to the semifinals on February the 20th. Your first semifinal at 10:40 a.m. Eastern time. Your second semifinal at 3:10 p.m. Eastern time. And you look at this game and these games kind of as the starter. And it's the starter of the main course. It's what you're looking for. But these games are likely going to be occupied by Canada, by the Swedes, by the Finns, by the USA, by Czechia, and by Switzerland. It'll likely end up being one of those 6 teams. Yes, there's absolutely the potential for a team not listed there to sneak their way in to this tournament and find their way into the semifinals. But realistically, you're likely going to end up seeing one of those 6 teams inside this semifinal matchup. And so it's going to be a good game regardless of who ends up playing in it. Be sure to come back tomorrow as we'll break down who my predictions are to end up in the semifinal game. But realistically, you're going to be entertained by any of these quarterfinal matchups. You're going to be entertained by any of these semifinal matchups. And then you get into the medal games, which are arguably one of the most exciting parts of this tournament, where history is made. You'll start here on February the 21st for the bronze medal game at 2:20 p.m. Eastern time. I think that this game is likely you're going to see some version of the Finns, the Swedes, Canada, the US, similar to the semifinal matchups, but I think more so you'll see the Swedes, the Finns, maybe the Czechs, maybe the Swiss, depending on how well they can play early on in this tournament, especially where they end up ranking in their group, because it's going to have a huge impact down the line, which is why goal differential becomes so important, especially at this kind of tournament. And then you shift to the gold medal game on February the 22nd, an early game at 8:10 a.m. Eastern time for the gold. And it's where memories are made. It's where history is made. And it's going to be interesting to see this year who's going to be that player that steps over the edge and really puts his team into that spot of glory. Every year, there seems to be 1 or 2 players that you look to at the end of the tournament that have made their mark. It's normally not the players you expect either, and that's what makes tournaments like these so special. But for the Olympic Games, always a great time to watch it. Be sure to stay tuned for lots of coverage, and always be sure to subscribe. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. Like, drop a like. If you realize you're subscribing, tell all your friends, comment down below your thoughts on the men's Olympic hockey event. Until next time, see you.